Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for being here. It is such an honor to be able to be the host of today's session. And today's session is called Practical AI, moving from time savings to strategic pre-sales outcomes. I don't know about you, but everything that's happening with any different type of AI tool that you're using, you think you figure it out one day, and the next day they come out with a million new things, and you feel like you're starting all over again. So I am very excited to be here with the following three leaders that I'll introduce here in just a second to talk about how they are practically using it within their solutions day to day. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dewey Shunk first. He is coming to us from Reprise. And Dewey's a product manager turned solutions engineer with over a decade of experience helping the world's biggest brands use technology to tell their brand stories. After nearly 5 years at Vimeo, he now leads solutions engineering at Reprise, collaborating with GTM teams to build world-class demo programs that convert leads, win deals, and retain customers. Dewey, so glad that you are here with us today. And I always love hearing a good how I got to solutions engineering story because no two are ever the same.
Right.
We
Thanks for
also
having me.
have David Malouf, and David is the founder of Presales Advisory Group, where he helps SaaS companies build, scale, and modernize presales teams. He previously served as VP of Global Presales at MRI Software and brings over 15 years of solutions experience across Oracle, Salesforce, and growth stage SaaS. Last but certainly not least, we have Katie Jackson. Katie's based in Austin, Texas, so hopefully you have much better weather than I do, Katie, and leads a global solutions team at First Up. She spent the first half of her career in professional services before moving into pre-sales, giving her a really unique perspective on the full customer lifecycle. She's especially passionate about using AI to help improve deal quality, not just save time, and helping teams to make smarter decisions throughout the long sales cycles. Outside of work, she enjoys pickleball, cheering on the Saints, and spending time with her two boys. Oh, and by the way, she's hiring, so check it out. Okay, so for today, we're going to go through a little bit of a rapid fire round. And so there are some rules here for our speakers. For the rapid fire round, before we get into the bigger questions, I'm going to challenge you, and we're all SE, so I know this is not going to be easy, but we got to try to keep these answers to one sentence or less. Got it? I know. It's going to be hard. Ready? Okay. First of all, David, I'm going to go to you first. What is the most overhyped AI capability for pre-sales right now?
Auto-generated content. If that's still exciting you, I think we're probably past that at this point. So
For sure, for sure. All right, Katie, how about yourself?
Okay, maybe controversial, but I'm gonna go with AI generated call summaries that lack the so what to them.
I love that. That's a big one. And then Dewey, how about yourself?
For me, it's in the same vein as David, but specifically with RFPs, I think they need oversight and a little bit of fine tuning every time.
For sure. That was a little bit more than one sentence, but I won't penalize you this time.
Commas, okay, fair.
Okay. What is the most underhyped AI capability that people are sleeping on right now? David?
are we going to say more? All right.
Sorry, yeah,
I'll
we'll
use
go
a
in the same
semicolon.
order.
It's not two sentences. But I'll say it's AI deal qualification. I think everyone's using it to build stuff and do something new, but that not enough people are using it to decide what not to do.
Love it. Katie, how about yourself?
I'm pivoting a bit outside of pre-sales, top of mind for me because it's spring break time, but I'm gonna go with travel planning, using AI to figure out what the heck to do when you're moving around.
I keep hearing that. I'd love your thoughts afterwards on the best
I
way to
have
do
so
that.
many thoughts and it's a game changer.
Perfect. Perfect. Dewey, how about yourself?
I think buyer committee mapping is a critical thing where the data's available, but not something we would do without AI.
Spot on. Spot on. Okay. Moving along. If you could keep only one AI tool, and this is a tough question, but if you could have only one AI tool in your pre-sale stack, which one? And I'll let you have two sentences on the why. David, how about yourself?
So for if you would have asked me this a month ago, I would have said ChatGPT. Now I would say Claude. I think that, ChatGPT came out of the gate strong, but there's so much you can do with Claude that replaces what so many other tools are trying to do that I don't think you could live without it.
Katie, how about yourself?
I'm gonna say one that I don't have in my tech stack yet, but if anybody is on the line who is on my team, they will attest that I am currently advocating for this, but it's Iris. We are currently in a POC with them, and it has been a game changer for the org. And just a caveat that they did not pay me to say that. So
And what is Iris?
Iris is an AI native RFP software tool that you literally plug and chug, and it writes your whole RFP in the context of the deal that you're working. And I don't work for them, but I'm sure somebody on the line does, so you can get in contact with them.
Well, it's pretty funny. I see Aaron put in the chat, we were having a nice conversation until you said RFP, so I get it. I think we all cringe a little bit when we hear that. And then Dewey, how about yourself?
Well, I'm gonna get busted for calling out RFP as overhyped, but I think maybe it's something we need to explore a little deeper. My answer for this though is also Claude. So functional across so many different things, and particularly with code projects, it's really unmatched.
Makes sense. And yeah, again, I think that this is where we need to continue to have these types of conversations because, David, like you said, even a month ago, you might not have had the same answer. So it's like, how just continuing to have these conversations of how we're all doing it, right? We're a small but mighty network of SE leaders here, so I think it's really important to continue these conversations moving forward. Okay, I love this one. What is the worst AI related advice you've heard someone give to a pre-sales team? So specifically bad AI advice to a pre-sales team. David, how about you first?
Yeah, so I heard a company tell the team once, just give everyone a license and they'll figure it out. I'm all for experimentation at the individual level. Sure, grab a tool, go figure it out. But if you're doing that massively across a team, you're setting yourself up for failure.
For sure, for sure. Katie.
I'm going to go with very relevant to the title of the webinar, but if it saves time, it's a win. I'm a big believer that time savings alone isn't impact.
I love it. Yes, I cannot wait to dive into that more for sure. And then Dewey?
For me, it's let AI handle the technical discovery. The irony there is that, if you're not actually doing technical discovery, you're not building real relationships. And so it's the foundation of good sales relationships and building trust. So it's something that really isn't replaced by AI.
I think that's a great point, and we're going to come back to that point shortly. Okay, last one for the quick hit round. What's one thing you're doing with AI now that you believe will be just table stakes in 2 years? David.
Literally everything. I mean, anything that we're doing now is just the tip of the iceberg. And it's like you said, it's changing week to week, month to month. A year from now, it's going to be a totally different game.
Yeah,
Yes.
I couldn't agree more. Sometimes I'm copying and pasting prompts into ChatGPT and I think, oh my God, my kids are going to make fun of me in 2 years or 10 years and think, I can't believe you guys did this. And so I think week on week we're behind. I couldn't agree more. Everything.
Yeah,
Well,
I think it's going to
there's nothing left for me to answer. We've covered everything, but to be maybe a little more pointed, I think real-time call intelligence. So as I'm talking to somebody, getting the kind of questions that I might need to surface or, disagreements, objections that we would expect. I think that's something that'll be table stakes in less than 2 years.
Isn't it crazy our kids are going to think someday you were searching on something called Google? That's crazy, right?
I specifically think about how ChatGPT lies to us and we have to challenge it and get like fine-tune things like that. I think my kids are going to be like, I can't believe that you trusted that tool for so long. They're going to fix that.
They will. This is not one of the questions, but I
Oh,
have found we use Gemini here at Proof, and it's like very nice. It's very nice. So I feel like
yeah.
sometimes I have to say please and thank you back. I don't know if anyone else feels. I'm like, but maybe the AI overlords are going to take over someday and remember that I was nice in my
Right.
Gemini chats. I don't know. That's my
That's the
my tin
plan.
hat
Absolutely.
sidetrack.
It doesn't hurt, right? So,
The AI
Okay,
Golden Gate.
right, exactly. All right, so I think this really goes right along this vein as we're in it now. So, what is one AI tool or feature, whatever it is, that you were skeptical about at first, but now you cannot imagine your pre-sales life without it? David, how about you?
Yeah, so a few months ago, someone told me about Granola, which is one of the meeting transcription services that's out there. And I at that point kind of thought they were all the same, right? Every service has their own. Zoom has one. I've used Otter and just like, great, it records it. That's fantastic. Whatever. Now I can't do a call without Granola. Just the way that it does note augmentation and kind of fills things in for you. It does a combination of your own notes and its notes. I can't take a call without it anymore.
I haven't even heard of that. We use Gong, but I'll have to check it out. That's great. Also, not a paid advertisement.
Yeah, no.
Do, Dewey, how about yourself?
For me, I recently joined Reprise, and when I did, it's kind of an opportunity to try some new softwares. I picked a new browser, which I'd heard a lot about, which is an AI first browser called Dia. And I wanted to give it a try. I was a little skeptical it would be that impactful, but it allows for these really integrated kind of workflows that actually are much better than just operating out of Claude. So I can do searches through different tabs, pull up a spreadsheet, maybe even a demo that I'm planning to give, and then query against that collection of information. Now that's kind of how I operate with prep for deals all the time. So it's been a hugely impactful change in workflow that definitely surprised me from when I got started.
I think we need a demo. That's pretty impressive, Dewey.
It's
That's
very
sounds
cool.
like another session coming up. And then Katie, talking about, how good the accuracy is. What are your thoughts?
Well, I definitely wrote both of those tools down. I went more of my brain goes more to the workflow side of things rather than a tool. Thinking about what I was skeptical about is more around using AI for coaching. I was very skeptical because I feel like there is this like human nuance that's needed when you're coaching a team or listening back to a call and trying to really give meaningful, like emotional value when you're critiquing something. But now I use AI all the time to coach around demos and discovery sessions and having it surface like key coaching moments that I've completely missed when I would listen back or having it be very objective on things that are normally very subjective. And so I use it all the time, even to listen back to my own calls. It surfaces moments that it makes me a better like coach, even like coaching moments. Coach is the coach. So it's very humbling. I originally, use it to help coach my team, but now I use it just as much as like a personal learning tool. I kind of have a standard prompt that I use for all, like to review all of my team's calls so that now we're having like pretty objective coaching sessions and we're just getting better and better. And I have the sample prompt if anybody is interested to use it if you lead a team and just want to use it as a starting point. I can put it into the chat, but it's just been really helpful to help keep things like improving and just keep things objective.
Yes, I just tried to share. Greer, if you're back there, our amazing Greer, who's running everything backstage. I can't chat to everyone, but we can certainly put that in there because one of the things, and Katie totally got the memo. It is, my goal for each of you today is that you walk away from this presentation with at least just one or two very actionable things that you can turn around right after this and use it. So we'll figure out how to share out that prompt for Katie and get that out to you shortly. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So let's dive a little bit deeper here. And y'all, we're gonna bring the elephant into the room. I want everybody to lean in here. I got a big question for you all. Do you think that AI will take over the job of the SC? David, I'm putting you in the hot seat first.
All right. So you want the safe answer or the real answer?
We're going real. We're going real now.
So here's the thing. AI is going to replace the role as it exists today or as it has existed in the past. I think that what it's doing is eliminating a lot of what people typically associate with pre-sales or SE type roles, but it's going to evolve what we're able to do by freeing up time from things like doing RFPs and security questionnaires and spending a bunch of time researching deals. It's going to bring back that connection with the customer and giving you time to actually understand what they're looking for, build better stories, build that relationship, those things that kind of fall to the wayside when you're going back to back for demos for 8 hours and maybe there's a discovery call, maybe there's not. Those sorts of things are going to go away. and it's going to focus more on the judgment layer for the SC and actually being able to interact with the customer more. That's my prediction.
100%. Absolutely. Um, who else wants to jump in on this one?
I think my feelings here are similar to David's, that it's definitely going to evolve the role. I think all roles are in the process of evolving and teams are shrinking. We're being asked to do more. And I think intentionally being shrunk so that we find new ways to use AI. But I think the bigger question is more about the SaaS industry and sort of some more tectonic shifts that may be in place. So I recently read Sarah Guo's Conviction, where she talks about this sort of future phase and something that's already happening where AI becomes the chief procurement officer for companies. And that's a huge shift away from the way that we think about selling software. In a lot of ways, as long as we're selling software, SEs are going to be uniquely protected and adaptable in those organizations. But in a world where AI is now becoming a decision maker, you can take an example of like a vibe coder. I'm going to create an identity layer, a payments layer, and I need to host it. Well, the AI is going to go and pick those tools for you. So the traditional buying process doesn't happen. There's no human intervention. So in that world, maybe not. But I think there'll still be some protected areas like, mission critical infrastructure, professional services consulting type things, enterprise software with compliance requirements. Those are probably areas where you're still safe and the SE role will be vital. But for a lot of these smaller, API first companies, the SE role and many sales roles may be in jeopardy. So I think for many of us on this call, we'll probably be safe for a while, but maybe a longer view, it's a shifting market.
I
Katie,
have
how about
just
yourself?
just one thought there that it was more advice that somebody gave me was I don't AI won't take over the job of the SE, but an SE that knows AI will take your job. And so just staying on top of knowing the technology and using AI in your role and staying on top of everything, I think is going to be really critical for the solution consultants out there.
Katie, I think I need to like plaster that up above my monitor. I think that's huge. So again, like if in case you missed it, Katie said, can you repeat it? You said
AI won't take, if you're an SE, AI will not replace your job, but an SE who knows AI will replace you.
that's huge. And it is interesting. I mean, we are having a seismic shift right now. This is like nothing we have ever seen before. I was trying to figure out what to compare it to, like an on-premise solution to a SaaS solution. I'm like, that's not quite like I don't think anything like this has happened in the past, right? And I've always told my SC teams that, people buy software, not companies, right? The company, yes, is the one paying the check, but it's the people and trying to make connections with them. But Dewey, to your point, when we start getting into more of these like agents, these bots, et cetera, that are going to be doing it, they're looking for facts. So it is definitely going to shift and change. But Katie, I think your point is absolutely critical too. How do we possibly keep up with it? And I'll be the first to say, I say to my team all the time, I feel like I have constant imposter syndrome because again, I figure, oh, okay, this is how I can do a really good prompt. And then all of a sudden you can start doing all these other things, right? But again, I think just leaning on this wonderful group of SC professionals is the best way that we're going to stay really up to date with it all. Okay. All right, so I want to go back to Katie. I'm going to start with you first on this one because you brought up earlier about AI time savings, right? It's great. We can save time on AI. So things like email drafting or note taking. But as you alluded to earlier, what's really the first strategic outcome that you've seen AI deliver for your pre-sales team that's not just about time savings, but really about how you've been able to fundamentally change how deals move or how quality's improved.
Yeah, I'd say the first one is actually pretty simple and it's just consistency. And I'll tie it back to what I mentioned with using AI just for coaching. So, before using AI, I would say demo quality used to be very dependent on who was running it. Coaching was very subjective and reactive. I would say, that felt off, or like what you said was technically right, but it just didn't seem like it landed, or it was really hard to pinpoint like where things were off. But now using like a templated prompt and really having like a rubric and understanding what great demos, like how we've defined that, we can objectively look now and say, we can spot patterns across conversations. We can see where the value was landing and where it wasn't. We can look, at this segment, you were over talking by X percentage. So looking, at the data numbers and see like this is where you were or weren't tying back to the buyer's pain. And so coaching has become really proactive, and it's become, like I said at the beginning, it's just the consistency around it. And so that consistency, I think, has directly translated into faster deal progression, not because we're rushing deals, but because we're earning that clarity earlier.
That's a great point, Katie, because consistency is, I'm actually finding consistency to also be a challenge in some ways. Because again, if somebody's using like Claude versus Gemini, they're trying to get, AI to beautify their slide. I think that's the prompt in it. It
Yes.
comes out kind of different every time too. So I think that there's to go along with your theme of consistency, I think that's great because of the way that you can pull all that information out. But then there's also even kind of like the visual consistency that we have to think about, the vanity piece of
Yeah.
it too.
Absolutely. And it's, the expectation from the rest of the, downstream team members, the AEs come to expect certain quality, our post-sales teams expect certain quality and output, and, the handoff becomes more clean, they have the right data points, and so everything downstream becomes more consistent because we're capturing everything in a more consistent way.
Yeah. Thank you, Katie. David, how about yourself?
Yeah, so I'll kind of go back to my underrated topic that we talked about earlier, and it's making
I hope it's not
decisions.
RFPs, David, not RFPs.
I'm
We're
not, I'm
not
not
going to
touching on
get good
RFPs. No,
ratings on this. Just kidding.
we're gonna leave RFPs alone for now. We'll come back to that. No, but it's making better decisions earlier in the cycle that aren't based on gut feel, right? So if I look back to when I was a first line SC manager, other than fighting for headcount and budget, I think one of the biggest pains that I had to deal with on a regular basis was fighting with sales or leadership and saying, this is not a qualified deal. We should not be brought in yet. We need more discovery. We haven't had this. We haven't had that. And then someone just says, well, push it through anyway, push it through anyway. We're going to do it. And you end up losing the deal, right? 99% of the time that happens. So with AI, you can have the ability to go in and look at past historical data, make forecasts on where you're actually should be going in and playing. You can set strategic parameters for when your team should be involved. And then when it's the system that's saying, no, you shouldn't get involved, it takes the emotional aspect out of it. It's not the SC manager or the SC director fighting with sales and saying, this is my opinion. I don't think this is a good idea. It's the system saying, hey, we've tried this before. We consistently lose when we do this. So go find out these four things and come back to me. And it removes that emotional complexity from it. There's some tools out there that have been doing different versions of this or trying to for years, but AI is accelerating that capability. And I think every SC manager is going to be using that pretty soon.
I love it. I love it. Um, I want to start to get a little bit more into the tactical piece of this. Again, like I said, I want all of our attendees to be able to walk away with something that they can use right away. So I'd like to ask each of you to walk us through a specific example where AI has helped your team win a deal that you likely would have lost or close a deal significantly faster. I'm good with any of them. Tell us a little bit about what the situation is. How did AI help that? And what was different about that outcome? David, I'll jump back to you.
Okay. So back when I was at MRI, we actually got feedback from a partner. It wasn't just a customer, it was a partner that had kind of stopped recommending us to potential customers because they didn't think our products could do certain things because of the demos that we were delivering. And so what we were able to do, they had some really, really detailed feedback, right? Pages and pages worth of feedback. And we were able to take that, feed it into, at the time it was ChatGPT, and say, hey, take a look at this, take a look at the demo transcript, find out where the deltas are, help us create a script that'll meet all of those different needs, create a rubric that scores and make sure that we hit all of these different points that we can use moving forward. And then, let's try this again. And then there was that human judgment layer where we went and we vetted that criteria internally with the stakeholders. We, had it up to the CEO and looked through everything. Everyone agreed this was the right way to do it. Went back and delivered that to the partner again. And pardon my language, but it was literally a holy shit, we didn't know you guys could do that, right? It was night and day difference when we were able to specifically come up with a script tailored to what they were looking for. And we got back into the mix. We started getting recommended again. We were back in the fray. And that became a baseline for how we started doing demos moving forward. So that's not something we could have been able to do, or at least not that quickly, if we wouldn't have had that tool accessible to us.
That is so powerful. I want everyone in the audience, give us a +1 in the chat if you've ever had a situation where it's either been a longtime customer or a partner like that that said, I had no idea you did that because they learned about you X number of months or years ago, right? But they can't keep up with all of the new innovations and things. I mean, half the time the SEs can barely keep up with all of it. I mean, that's amazing. I love that example. We're getting quite a few +1s, +2s, +1,000,000. Yeah, absolutely. Dewey, how about yourself?
So for me, this is that I think that's a great example, David, of sort of a workflow that you can build into your sales process. My example is maybe a little bit more of the one-off kind of situation where you can do things with AI that you just wouldn't have done otherwise. So at Vimeo, we had a bunch of different products that were really good at what they did. So one of them being Vimeo OTT, basically a subscription video platform. And we got someone totally on board, bought it, but our out of the box landing pages at the time were not quite customizable. They didn't meet their needs. And it was about to be a deal breaker. So in an afternoon, I vibe coded a landing page that met all of those requirements and sent it back to them before the day was over. And it gave them this sort of confidence that, okay, wait, we can do that and it can integrate in all of these ways. We don't need it to be fully in-house. So I would say this AI is augmenting your own platform or even replacing parts of it that you do offer as a way to get people on board and build trust. I'm willing to do this for you and things that you probably just wouldn't have done otherwise. I'm not going to go write a whole landing page in an afternoon if I
I
didn't
mean,
have
yeah, you
AI.
you
So,
you couldn't, right?
well,
Who has, like who
maybe,
has
but
the
no.
time, right? There's always, in theory, maybe if you had no other blockers, but
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Katie, I cheated a little bit. I saw your answer. I'm super excited about it. You're taking a whole different direction on this. So tell us about yours.
Leave it to me to go the complete opposite direction. I actually, yeah, I thought about this and I wanted to share an example where AI actually helped us not pursue a deal. So we used ChatGPT projects for evaluating deals and kind of using them to just upload information about deals from start to finish, right? And so we got an RFP at first glance, kind of looked viable, kind of within our sweet spot. But as we do, we uploaded everything into the ChatGPT project, our discovery notes, the RFP itself, any kind of call transcripts. And then we ran it through kind of our homegrown bid, no bid assessment. And some red flags became very apparent. So what felt like a few small like requirements or gaps in the requirements, kind of we discovered is closer to like a 30% mismatch with our core strengths. So we're like, okay, well, there's some core things that we don't do. So that's a big red flag. And then we started looking more into it. Like, we don't really have like a well-defined champion. Our only real contact at the time was procurement, which is, I think everybody knows, like not the best situation to be in. We're brought in pretty late to the deals. And so we started to really like objectively evaluate this RFP. And then as a group, and kind of going back to what David was saying, is like, this isn't an emotional decision. This isn't solutions pushing back on this. It was a pretty robust RFP that was going to take a lot of time from my team, right? It's looking at the data, using AI to do a clear analysis, and then everyone having an aha moment of like, this is really just not worth our time. And as a team, we decided to just not bid on it. And so I consider that a huge win for the team. It allowed my team to work on deals that we could progress, that we did have a great chance of winning, and walk away from something that we really weren't going to win anyways. And so I just thought that was, just a great use of AI to look at the data instead of being like, my gut says we're not going to win this, but let's bid anyways and throw our hat in and go, spin our wheels trying to win something that we don't have a chance on. And so I just thought it was a good example of, failing fast, protecting team capacity, and redirecting focus on opportunities where you could really shape the outcome.
I mean, I already have my action items from this session. I can't wait to test that out. Thank you. Thank you so much. I did notice Ross put a great question in the chat. That's actually one of our other questions here. We're going to wrap it together. So Ross asked, what are some of the tech stacks utilized to do these types of system analyses, right? Is it just your CLM to LLM? His goal is to really make it actionable. And so conveniently, our next question just so happens to be, we've all heard a million times in our lives the whole idea of garbage in, garbage out, right? And that's very much a case when it comes to AI and your CRM data, because as far as I see it, like if it's not in my case, Salesforce or Dynamics, whatever it is that you're using, it didn't happen, but not necessarily everyone else feels the same way. So if your CRM data isn't as good as it could be, right? How do you handle this type of a problem? What's your approach to trying to get your team to feed AI systems with the right type of quality inputs? And this is specifically around CRM, but also please feel free to, talk about what else you're feeding in. Like David, it sounds like, oh my gosh, terrible. I can't remember the name of the product you mentioned earlier, but you mentioned another earlier that's doing another tool that's helping with your transcripts and things like that. Like, what else are you practically adding in? And then also, if your CRM could slightly be better, how are you helping with that too?
Yeah, so I might have jumped ahead and I typed an answer into the chat for Ross there, but
Oh, perfect.
but basically from a tech stack perspective, you can accomplish most of this with just the CRM and LLM. These connectors and stuff that they keep putting out there, especially the ones now that Claude has available, they seem to be working really, really well for making that connection, doing the analysis. As far as the quality of the data, I think that's a separate question outside of the tech stack. But what I would say there is, a lot of people talk about training the team to use AI or to use an LLM. Not enough people are taking the time to talk about how to train the LLM to work with your team. And so this used to be done primarily through, prompt engineering, writing better prompts. Now we've kind of moved into context engineering. So kind of setting predefined standards that you can build into a custom GPT or a gem or, whatever it is that you're using that say, hey, if someone asks me a question in this regard and they don't include, these three things, don't answer the question. Go back and ask them to clarify. And you can also build in validations into your prompt loops that say, okay, once you've decided to answer the question, before you shoot me the response, go back and review it as a CFO, go back and review it as a head of product, look at it through that lens, and then provide the answer before you spit it back out to me. So depending on what you're trying to accomplish, there's a lot of different ways you can accomplish that. And then, as you mentioned, Kelly, with things like Granola, Granola has a native connector now into Claude as well. So I've got Granola, I've got Claude, I've got my HubSpot account, all those things kind of linked together. And I can say, hey, I just had a call with so and so, go read the transcript, add the notes to HubSpot, and go from there, right? So there's all different kind of things you can do. What I would say is don't go out and spend a bunch of money on a bunch of tools. Start with your LLM, see what it can do. If there's something missing, then take a look at something like a Zapier or something like that to build some connections. But start with the LLM, do that analysis, and then take it from there.
You're muted.
I mean, listen, I'm bound to do that once. David, you said a lot of great things just now. One that really stuck out to me is, I mean, how many times have we had an SE, say to us internally, I don't think I have enough information, or, I just need a little bit more. But then there's the sales rep or someone else. It's like, just we're not going to go back and ask them, right? I actually can almost see us using, chat or Claude or whatever we're using to be like, no, literally, like it's saying we do not have enough information. We are not best positioned properly. Because I know SEs, we're all generally people pleasers. We don't want to rock the boat, but we know in our guts when something doesn't feel right or when we need more information. So I love that. I love that. Who wants to go next?
You go, Katie.
Doing.
I mean, I can't top that. I agree. Like the data problem is a separate issue to be solved. I agree with treating it more as like an enablement problem. I think baseline AI literacy is a must of understanding, the custom GPTs and how you can do better prompting and prompt engineering and with the custom GPTs or gems or whatever you happen to be using. I'm definitely key takeaway from David again is just using better prompts to help the GPT actually ask you questions. I didn't even consider that, so that's something I'm definitely taking back. So um, continue to learn every day.
Don't we all? Don't we all?
Yeah.
Dewey, how about yourself?
Well, I think with this question, the garbage in, garbage out, there's the original thinking, which would be, the SE's notes are not good or salesperson's notes are not good. So I think in all of these answers, we've sort of removed the manual data entry piece. We're automating that as much as possible. So then how do we take that transcript data primarily, I think is what we're talking about, and turn that into really the key components that are going to define deal success. So come up with 10 key points that feed from your transcript and then score them because we can do sentiment analysis on those transcripts as well. Um, from there, I think you're off to the races on a successful deal. But removing that manual data entry, I think is key. So if you don't have that post-call intelligence set up, that would be where I would start, um, and then continue building from there.
I think it's a great point. I kind of feel like I want to bring like Ross from our attendees in here to the chat more formally, but I don't know if y'all saw Ross's chat back, right? Looking at his Zapier, thinking about directly linking Gong to Claude to Teams or Slack or whatever. That's what we're doing right now, and I think that what my goal is, well, first, two things. Number one, what we do have in our control, that's what I always try to remind myself, is trying to make sure that whatever you are tracking from an SE perspective in your CRM is going to provide that consistency, right? Number one. But number two, even in that case, people are going to fill in things a little bit differently, right? Like if I say put in your demo notes, one person might put a whole Google page in there. Another person might write one sentence. So what we're doing now is because of all the cool things you can do in Gong, we can prompt Gong basically to automatically pull out different sentiments, different information, like did you hear competitors, what products did they demo, and things along those lines. It then feeds into Salesforce, and we can even have it ping them in Slack to say, this is the entry that we've put in. Is it accurate? Right. And then they can go right back and say, I talked about that product, but I didn't demo it, or they didn't mention whatever the case may be to try to help with that. Because as important as the demo logging and SE logging and critical it is for me in Salesforce, I had to do that myself for many years and nobody likes it. So anything we can do to try to automate that in general is going to be a huge win. Okay, I love that conversation. So let's jump. I want to jump down a little bit. So for our panelists, I'm going to jump down to number 6. I apologize. I'm skipping around a little bit, but I want to keep getting down to that very actionable, those very actionable details here. So tell us about a time when you had an AI initiative that looked great on paper, but completely fell apart in practice, right? What was it? What broke? Was it the technology? Was it the process? Was it the people? Was it something else? And what did you learn? David, I thank you for answering first in here. I'm going to pick on you again.
Sure, no problem. I mean, this is pretty high level, and hopefully at this point it's common sense. But what I've seen is a lot of people that are making tech decisions based on existing relationships. So it's, oh, we're a Microsoft shop, so we're going to use Copilot. We're a Google shop, so we're going to use Gemini, without any thought put into, how are we actually going to be using this on a day-to-day basis? Are the integrations, do they exist where we need to? Is there going to be another level of, kind of configuration we're going to need to do? And they just throw it out there like, oh, we're going to add this to our license agreement. Everyone gets Copilot. Great. And then you go out there and no one has any idea how to use it. It doesn't fit the use case. And you've just wasted additional dollars on doing that. So, if procurements or the IT team internally is just making that decision without actually talking to people that are going to be using the tools, you're setting yourself up for failure, right? The end users need to be involved in that conversation. So, like I said, pretty high level. It seems like it's common sense for us as SEs in the room. But when you start talking to the broader ecosystem internally with politics and all that kind of stuff, you'd be surprised at some of the decisions people are making.
And I want to double down on that, David, because again, I see another common trait of SEs is that we're very humble, right? We're not very boastful people. Um, but I've learned from the past that it is important that people understand what it is that we're doing. And I'm seeing things like AI councils pop up across all these different types of organizations because everyone's trying to figure out what they're doing, right? I'm asking all of you on this call today to make sure that you are reporting out and up the work that you are doing. It's going to shine a few different lights on your team. It's going to shine, first of all, that your team knows what they're doing and you have a very forward-thinking team. And then to David's point, it's going to allow them to see how you are using the tool or what you need to be doing that you cannot get from that tool. So figure out whoever it is that you need to report out and up to, but do not just sit back and think, wow, we're doing all this cool stuff. Maybe somebody will figure it out at some point. You need to make sure that you're communicating that out. And hey, if you can get on that AI council yourself, even better. Katie, how about yourself?
I love that. Just love what you just said. I very similar to what David said, but more around just buying the new or implementing the new shiny thing. For us, it was ChatGPT without the follow-up education around it. I think just having a tool that you're going to standardize across the enterprise, but not explaining to people how to use it, when to not trust it, I think was a big one for me. It kind of went out into the wild with our entire go-to-market team. And without that critical eye, especially knowing where you can, where hallucinations exist, I found that ChatGPT was very kind when, for example, answering RFPs, it basically said, yes, we could do everything. And so we had sellers who were, perhaps new to the organization that were answering yes to everything. And I'm like, where did you get this from, ChatGPT? And it's like, no, that's not like, it doesn't replace solutions. It doesn't replace your critical thinking here. And so I think that, taking a step back, we need to educate, you need to understand like what inputs you need to feed ChatGPT, that it isn't just a plug and play, like you have to use it correctly. And so now, just once we took a step back, re-educated, understood the best practices around it and when to trust, when to not trust, when to challenge, when to refine those prompts, it's been a much better experience. But I think the initial rollout of just like, here's the tool and it will answer all your questions perfectly, and there was like no education around it. It was definitely a bumpy beginning, to say the least.
Yeah,
Well, and Katie, that's true with every software of all
Yeah.
time. That education and process, that's like the hardest thing. You have to be so obvious for people to
Yeah.
just start using it and it be viral inside an organization. And if anything, AI and chat experiences are the most open-ended of all softwares. So it's
Yeah.
not obvious how to get benefit. So more than ever, I think people and process is the biggest challenge to having a successful initiative.
Yeah.
And maybe a more specific example, maybe more in the product sense that I've seen, where AI is obvious on paper. Wow, huge TAM to do translations. Now we can
Yeah.
access the whole globe. But in practice, translations are finicky and getting the right messaging is difficult. And you really need context and local speakers to get that right. So that's kind of an obvious one where that on paper you say our market just got 10 times as big, but in practice you might actually be alienating a lot of those people instead of bringing them in.
for sure. Oh, absolutely. The other piece I'll add in too around the communication, it's not just to get the message out as far as what you're doing, but you'd be surprised to find out that while some of what you're doing may be very, very SE specific, there's things that you're doing that are not quite as SE specific, and there might be other teams that are doing the exact same thing. And so what I've seen already happen at my company and at a few other companies is that there's multiple people working on the same or nearly the same initiative.
Yeah.
What could be cool about that is you can kind of compare and contrast maybe, but to me, that just screams like, I wish we would have talked sooner, right? To try to have some more efficiency there. Okay. Um, I love this one. So it's kind of two questions here. I want to know from each of you, how do you measure whether AI is actually moving the needle for your pre-sales team? And I don't want any like vanity metrics like number of emails generated or anything. I want to know a leading indicator that tells you that AI is actually driving better outcomes before the quarter closes. So that's kind of more tactical in your day to day. But what I also want to know, kind of to the point we were just talking about, what's one thing that your executives understood about measuring AI's impact on your team, right? Like, what's the gap between what leadership wants to see versus what actually matters? It's a loaded set of questions there, I know, but let's open up that discussion here. Dewey, maybe can I throw
Yeah.
you in
Yeah.
first?
I think this one's interesting because there are things that AI enables that help us close deals. And then there are ways that you're using AI to then go and close more deals. So I'm going to kind of take the first half. It sounds similar, but they're slightly different. So something we can do now using AI is get a sense of buyer engagement that, again, would be too time consuming to do previously. So we can now see how many stakeholders engaged on a call and surface that up. Where if there are more than four stakeholders asking questions on a call, there's significant higher chance of closing that deal. Same kind of thing with demo engagement and time to plug Reprise. This is something that we can help with. When you plug a demo into your website or you share it as an after, post call leave behind, you can now track how many people are engaging or are they going back to that same area again and again. With that kind of data coming into your CRM, you can now say, all right, this is much more likely to close. That's where we should focus our efforts. That's one where I think it's like it's data that AI enables that helps us close more. But on the other side, how would you validate that AI is really making AI initiatives are working? I think this is kind of an A/B test thing. So flagging where I'm using AI in this deal flow. All right. And this one we used a AI generated data set for this demo. This one we didn't. And then tracking how that deal progresses through different phases of the deal. I think that's a really practical way to validate, AI is impacting our sales cycles.
Love.
So it's kind of two sides of the same coin.
I mean, that's it, it's a litmus test, right? I think that's brilliant. Awesome. Katie, how about yourself?
I mean, this one's tough because I feel like it's it's I'll be candid, we don't have the data yet to prove it out, right? It's new. We're kind of experimenting with these workflows right now. And to Dewey's point, right, it's hard to say where and if we use AI in certain processes. I think what I'm trying to prove out, right, is where it used to be those activity metrics, right, of how many demos did you do and time tracking type things. I would love to prove the acceleration of stages is quicker when AI is used. For example, I think that we could potentially eliminate, if not just very much accelerate, when a prospect can get a demo because we are so set in this, oh, they meet with an SDR and do a little bit of discovery. Then they have to have a call with an AE and do an hour-long discovery. And then they can meet with an SE and we do a little bit of discovery and maybe kind of tease out the product a little bit. But then they get the real demo because now we know enough. I feel like we could learn a lot of that through AI, the data that's available on the internet, a very well built out prompt of publicly available information, understand what their challenges are without having to ask them, probably get a good idea of their tech stack and just validate that and give them a sense of the product on that first call, rather than making them wait 3 or 4 calls down the road. And so I see deal acceleration as a big metric that I'm interested in tracking to show that we don't need to ask you 4 million questions. Let's get to the real meaningful questions and tie this to the positive business outcomes quicker than just what are your challenges? Because I feel like we can come up with a hypothesis a lot quicker. And I think the second part of the question around, what do you wish executives understood about AI metrics? I think it's also just that is that it's more than just how many demos have we done. It's about the relationships that we're building, the more it's more than just, the emails generated, the RFPs completed, etc. It's how much clearer our discovery is, how much stronger the value alignment is, how many times or how fewer times now we have to re-demo because we nailed it the first or second time. We have very long sales stages at First Up, and so can we shrink those to where we're not doing 12 demos in a single cycle? Maybe we're doing five because we've really understood those pain points through a combination of, the projects that we're using in ChatGPT, the AI that we've done with publicly available information, and just the rubrics that we've created and a combination of things. So I'm really looking at like acceleration, particularly from stage 2 to stage 3, and just getting deals closed faster from a metric standpoint.
And it sounds like we'll have more context to put behind those numbers too. Like I think, ultimately we'll still want to look at the number of demos and things along those lines, but more context and meat behind that. That's great.
Absolutely.
Katie, thank you so much. David, how about yourself?
Yeah, I know we're running up on time, so I'll go through this quickly. But I'll start with the second part of the question first. Executives, they want AI savings to be a line item on a board slide, right? We implemented this, we saved this many hours, we increased revenue by this number. They don't realize that it's a process improvement thing that's going to take time to establish. So I actually learned something last week. I was on a broader AI conversation call about adoption, not beyond pre-sales, but they talked about how to start measuring this and what it actually looks like. And they talked about this kind of three-layer framework. And the first is adoption. Before you can start actually measuring anything, you need to get to an 80% adoption rate, right? Right now, teams are about like a 5 to 10% adoption rate, and people are seeing individual savings. But if an SE is saving 7 hours, 8 hours a week, he's not walking into his boss's office on Friday and saying, "Hey, I'm done with my work early. Give me something else to do." Right? So you can't really quantify, Bob got to take lunch this week on your ROI report, right? So the once you have 80% adoption, then you start to take a look at the proficiency. So you set proficiency metrics around that adoption. Then you get to 80% proficiency, people actually using it the way that you intended. And then the last section of that is where you actually get to start measuring. So you take a 4 week baseline for all the different things that you want to measure, whatever that looks like, establish what that baseline looks like before. And then once you've reached 80% for proficiency, then you can actually measure the delta. And that's where you can start to get quantifiable terms. Now, in terms of looking at the actual metrics and what that looks like, it's things like deal disqualification rate, how many things did we not participate in that we would have before, what's the time to the first real value conversation, do we accelerate the sales cycle, all of those types of things. So I wish executives understood that, and I think as the conversation broadens, they will. But the goal here is to eventually get to the point where it's like Outlook. Where no one asks you what's the value of having Outlook on your computer. You just know you need it. You just know you need AI. No one says, "Oh, we didn't pay the electricity bill this month because we didn't see the value in having the lights on in the building." Right? We're going to get to that space. It's just going to take a little while to get there.
I think it's going to happen faster than we think, but yeah, very valid. Okay. I'm sad to say that we're running out of time, but I do want to end with one last question. And this question is looking ahead 6 months. What is one AI capability that's not quite ready for prime time now, but you're watching it closely because you believe it could be a total game changer for pre-sales? David, I'll go right back to you again.
All right, so for my Marvel fans out there, I'll call this the multiverse of madness. It may take a little longer than 6 months to get there, but it's the ability to go and run an endless number of scenarios to pick the ones that are going to have the highest probability of actually hitting. So being able to go and running a simulation against the customer's requirements and saying, okay, here's all the different personas, here's all the different people that are going to be in the room, here's all the things that could go wrong with the deal, here's what the possibilities that we're going to show them. Give me the scenarios in which we actually have a chance at winning this thing, right? And we're going to be able to run those simulations pretty endlessly in the not too near future here.
Agreed. Katie, how about yourself?
I would say AI evolving from a reactive assistant to a proactive deal partner. So I feel like today AI is mostly just responding to what we ask. And I'm excited to see that over the next 6 months, AI being able to continuously monitor deal context and surface insights that we didn't explicitly ask for.
It's a great call. Do any final thoughts on your end?
Yeah, I mean, I think this notion of sort of AI as more agent centric, and
Mhm.
as a seller, you're orchestrating a team of agents that engages across a buying committee.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that it feels almost impossible today because we do relationship-based selling, but the relationship might be between a single individual and a team of people that are people agents that are building demos, that are engaging with these questions, that are validating data, that are doing legal. and that being an orchestration effort as opposed to one-off engagements on your own personal computer.
It's an excellent point. Absolutely. Well, I am frankly pretty sad to see the time. I wish we could keep going. There's so many more good questions to talk about, but overall, I just think that this has been incredible. And I want to thank our partners at Reprise and Iris for bringing us all together and making this happen. And I hope that we can keep this conversation going. I already saw thanks Ross and team in the chat for future sessions as well to do. But if this conversation sparks something for you, I'd love to hear more about it. I highly encourage you to connect with myself, connect with our partners, our panelists on LinkedIn, and share your own AI success stories and keep this conversation going with your teams. And if you want to be posting on LinkedIn, here's a good thing to post about, right? What's your hottest tool or thing that you want to stay away from in AI? Get that conversation going for yourself within your own network for sure. But until next time, keep solving, keep growing, and thank you all so much for joining us. And thanks to our panelists. You rock. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, y'all.